The film starts with 88-year-old Zev Gutman murmuring to his wife, Ruth, while he sleeps. He wakes up confused, emerging from his room, inquiring about her whereabouts. A caregiver named Paula gently reminds him that Ruth passed away a fortnight ago. Paula then escorts Zev to have breakfast. Like many senior citizens, Zev resides in a nursing facility in New York. During his meal, he's joined by his buddy, Max Rosenbaum. Max nudges Zev about a commitment he made, but Zev's memory fails him due to his dementia. Today marks the end of Ruth's mourning period. Zev once mentioned to his granddaughter that he met Ruth in the US after relocating from Germany. Quietly, Max hands over an envelope to Zev, advising him to go through its contents in private. Claiming fatigue, Zev retreats to his room. Upon reading the note inside the envelope, Zev collects his savings. Without notifying anyone, he slips out of the care home. Max had already arranged a taxi for him. In no time, Zev finds himself on a train bound for Cleveland. The detailed letter from Max acts as his guide, instructing Zev to mark off each step once done. His worried son, Charles, approaches the home's management, expressing concern about his father's sudden disappearance. They believe that Ruth's passing might have exacerbated Zev's memory issues. On the train, Zev experiences another bout of confusion, crying out for Ruth. He refers to the letter to recall his purpose. To keep track, Zev scribbles a reminder on his palm, urging himself to review the letter. Upon reaching Cleveland, a man, as directed by Max, meets him. This man takes Zev to a gun shop where he buys a Glock. The shopkeeper ensures Zev knows how to handle it by jotting down instructions. Subsequently, Zev checks into a hotel. Everything's prearranged and paid for. Shortly after settling in, he gets a call from Max, who'd given specific directives to the hotel staff the previous day. Max's primary concern was to find out if Zev had procured the gun. Zev fell asleep in the tub. Waking up, he called out for his wife. Seeing the gun and the fading note on his hand, he recalled his mission. The following day, he reached the address mentioned in the letter. After ticking off the related instruction, Zev rang the bell. He asked a woman if Rudy Kurlander was home. She pointed downstairs. Meeting the elderly Rudy, Zev pulled out the Glock from his bag and instructed him to move towards the light. Studying Rudy's face, Zev tried to remember if they had met before. Rudy mentioned he was from Germany and had been in the German army 7 decades back. Zev was sure Rudy was part of Auschwitz, but Rudy denied it. He clarified he was in North Africa during the war, serving under Rommel. He even showed photos to prove his point. Zev rang Max to update him. This Rudy wasn't involved in Auschwitz. Max urged Zev to continue searching, reminding him of the commitment he made. As Zev drove, he revisited the letter. Max had mentioned that after World War II, some German officers had taken the identities of prisoners. One of them used the name Rudy Kurlander but was actually Otto Walisch. There were 4 such Rudy Kurlanders in North America from that era. Zev's goal was to locate Otto. Simultaneously, Charles reached out to several authorities to trace his father. Zev reached the Canadian border. The border staff asked about his visit's purpose. Zev said he was visiting a sick friend. When asked for his passport, it was expired. But showing his driving license resolved the issue. Unbeknownst to them, Zev had hidden the gun in the vehicle. Soon, Zev reached the hospital. An official guided him to where Rudy Kurlander was. Zev pulled a curtain for privacy and started inquiring about Rudy's past. The frail Rudy confessed he was in Auschwitz. Zev said he too was there, having lost his family. Noticing a tattoo on Rudy's arm, Zev recognized him as a former prisoner, not a guard. Apologetically, Zev wept. As he walked down the hospital hallway, the sound of a piano reached him. A lady was playing. Zev remembered he too could play but hadn't in a long time. Years had passed since Zev played the piano, but the woman encouraged him to try. After playing, he proceeded to the hotel, which Max had thoughtfully booked for him in advance. Realizing he hadn't brought a change of clothes, Zev visited a store. While leaving, the store's alarm rang. A security guard inspected Zev's bags, finding the Glock. The guard mentioned his first gun was also a Glock and allowed Zev to leave, wishing him well. Max had emphasized to Zev the importance of locating Walish. While in his hotel room, a waitress unintentionally spilled coffee on Zev's guiding letter. He dried it using a hairdryer and pieced together the faded parts, reading aloud Max's directive. Besides Max, Zev was the only one who could recognize the face of the man responsible for their family tragedies. Upon reaching the third address, no one was home. The house was secluded. Zev decided to wait. During this time, a mailman delivered a package, revealing the homeowner's name as John Kurlander. Later, John arrived. He was a policeman and informed Zev that his father, Rudy, had passed away a few months ago. Mistaking Zev as an old friend of his dad, John welcomed him inside. When Zev inquired about Rudy's time in Germany, John pointed him to a room filled with memories and artifacts from Germany, many bearing Nazi insignias. John considered these as his father's treasures. Among these, Zev found an album filled with old photos and an SS uniform stored away. John, trying to bond over shared memories, poured a drink in his father's honor. However, the atmosphere changed when Zev mentioned meeting Rudy in Auschwitz. John was taken aback, saying his dad was merely a cook in the army and too young during the war to be an SS officer. Seeing the number tattoo on Zev's arm, John deduced he was Jewish. He grew suspicious and hostile, realizing Zev might not be there as a mere friend. Confronted by John's aggression, Zev, out of fear, had an unfortunate accident. John's anger heightened upon realizing Zev was Jewish, feeling it tainted his father's legacy. In his rage, John set his sheepdog on Zev. Reacting, Zev used his Glock, ending the lives of both the dog and John. After this, he showered, changed, and slept. On waking, disoriented, he called for Ruth. It took reading the letter to recall his purpose and the tragedy at John's house. He phoned Max, admitting his mistake. Max questioned Zev's desire to continue. Zev affirmed his commitment. One address remained. En route, a mirage of his wife, Ruth, distracted him, causing a car accident. His son, Charles, was informed. Shocked, Charles learned of Zev's location in Nevada. Hospitalized, Zev conversed with Charles, briefly forgetting Ruth's demise until a fellow patient read out his letter. Max and Zev's meeting at the nursing home 6 months prior was serendipitous. Max recognized Zev from Auschwitz, but Zev, due to his deteriorating memory, didn't recognize Max. Their reunion was a silver lining, enabling them to collectively pursue Otto Walish. With Ruth gone, Zev had assured wheelchair-bound Max of locating Otto. Escaping the hospital, Zev updated Max about his readiness to confront Walish. Meanwhile, Charles continued searching for his elusive father, learning of his location through a cab service. The following day, Zev reached the final address, a picturesque countryside home. A lady, Kristen, answered, mentioning that Rudy was resting. On hearing Zev was an acquaintance of her father, she invited him in, intuiting a connection to Auschwitz. Kristen mentioned her father, Rudy, might avoid discussing Auschwitz. While there, Zev greeted Rudy's granddaughter, Inga, and started playing the piano. Unbeknownst to him, Otto Wales approached. Zev identified him by the unchanged voice. As Zev faced him, Otto also recognized him. They began a conversation in German, leading them outside. Zev remembered to grab his purse. Otto admitted that he'd hidden his true identity from his family and others all these years. Zev was taken aback when Otto embraced him. Otto's surprise mirrored Zev's when Zev named him Otto Walish, blaming him for his family's suffering. Declaring his intent to end the deception, Zev pulled out his Glock. Just then, Charles reached the house, seeing Zev aiming the gun at Rudy, demanding the truth. Rudy tried dismissing Zev as delusional, but when Zev targeted Inga, Rudy revealed that he wasn't a captive in Auschwitz but a block leader. To the disbelief of his daughter and granddaughter, Rudy confessed, but when Zev demanded his real name, a twist emerged. Rudy named himself as Kunibert Sturm, but then shouted that Zev was the actual Otto Walisch. Both had been bloc leaders in Auschwitz, and after the war, disguised themselves as prisoners, adopted new identities, and fled to America. This revelation stunned both Zev, who truly was Otto, and Charles. In a swift act, Otto ended Kunibert's life and then his own. Back at the nursing home, fellow residents watched the news, speculating on Zev's actions. Some believed his dementia drove him, but Max clarified that Zev knew what he was up to. It was Otto Walisch and Kunibert Sturm who'd harmed Max's family years ago. After decades, Max Rosenbaum had his revenge, having always held onto a photo of Otto Walisch, awaiting their paths to cross once more.